Hey there, everybody. Welcome to my channel, The Magical Solution, here on YouTube, on my Facebook group, and in a few minutes on TikTok. For some weird reason, I violated some sort of community guideline that I don't know anything about, so they cut me off until about 7:03. So midway through our little conversation here, I'll turn TikTok on as well. So I'm excited to be on tonight. We are on chapters 16 through 19, and hopefully we can get through them. They are pretty chunky chapters, but we'll get through it. And as you guys can see, we're already pretty much about halfway through the book. So we're getting there. We are getting there. So those of you who are on YouTube, you can leave comments in the live stream and I can see who you are, and I can definitely, respond. If you're on my private Facebook group, you're going to have to give your Facebook screen name, and or if you want to give your real name, you can do that too. Otherwise, it just shows up as Facebook user, and I don't really know who it is. Hey, Kathy, what's up? Thank you for stopping by. So we're about to get started. I wanted to give a really huge shout out, though, to a really amazing friend of mine. She had made me a candle, and this candle is so beautiful, and it smells amazing. And it was in honor of a particular spirit that she felt that I needed at this time. And she channeled all the things that were supposed to go into this candle, and she gave it to me. And I'm so excited about lighting it that after I do this book reading today, I'm going to be lighting it for myself. So I'm really excited. I just wanted to give a shout out to her. Thank you so much for this. All right, so let's get TikTok back on the line. Hopefully the community guidelines have dissipated and I can go back on live. So let's see what happens here, because we got to get started. It is still not letting me go on. I don't know why, so we'll just move on. So chapters 16 through 19 of The Spirit Book by Allan Kardec. All right, excited. And the title of this chapter is The Emancipation of the Soul. Okay. What's going to be covered in this chapter is sleep and dreams, visits between the spirits of living persons, the concealed transmission of thought, lethargy, catalepsy, and apparent death, somnambulism, gonna have to look that one up, ecstasy, second sight, a theoretical summary of somnambulism, ecstasy, and second sight. So I guess I don't have to look it up because he's gonna explain it, right? Hi, Madrina. Thank you for joining me. Oh my gosh, you're always here for my stuff. I love your support. Thank you so much. All right, let's do this. Yay, TikTok did work. Yay! So I just put it on. Yes, timely topics for sure. Hey, TikTok, sorry about the community guidelines thing. I know I was in the middle of giving you guys some free readings and it just shut me off. I don't know why, but we're about to start this book, so let's get to it. All right. Question 400, because that's where we are on 400. Woo. Okay, here we go. Does an incarnate spirit willingly stay in its corporal envelope? That is like asking if a prisoner is happy being under lock and key. An incarnate spirit constantly aspires to freedom. The denser the envelope, the more it wants to be free of it. Hi, Apocalypse. Hello, guys. 401. During sleep, does the soul rest like the body? No. A spirit never remains inactive. During sleep, the bonds that join it to the body are loosened, and since the body does not need it while sleeping, the spirit travels through space and enters into a more direct relationship with other spirits. How many of y'all astral traveled? How many of y'all have gone to sleep and woken up and been like, oh my God, that dream was so real. I went over here and I talked to this and I did this. That's what that's all about. Just letting you know. Just letting you know. All right, 402. How can we confirm that the fact that a spirit is how can we confirm the fact that a spirit is free during sleep? By dreams. While the body rests, the spirit enjoys more of its faculties than it is in the waking state. It remembers the past and sometimes foresees the future. It acquires more power and can communicate with other spirits, whether on this world or another. You frequently say, oh, I had a bizarre dream, a horrible dream, but there is no likelihood of it being true. You are mistaken. It is almost always a memory of places and things which you have seen, or which you will see in another existence or on another occasion. Since the body is dormant, the spirit tries to break its chains in order to probe into the past and the future. Poor human beings, you know so little about the most ordinary phenomenon of life. You believe that you are very knowledgeable, yet the most ordinary things puzzle you to no end. To the question of all children, what do we do when we sleep? What are dreams? You remain without an answer. Sleep partially frees the soul from the body. When humans sleep, they momentarily find themselves in a state which they will in permanently after death. Will be in permanently after death, sorry. Spirits who quickly free themselves from matter upon death had intelligent dreams during earthly life. Such spirits, while their body is sleeping, rejoin the company of those who are more evolved. They traveled with, converse with, and learn from them. They even work on projects that they find completed upon dying. From these facts, you should once more learn not to fear death, because you die daily, as a saint once stated. So he's attributing the dream state to a death state, and in a sense, is asking you not to fear death because every night when you go to sleep, you die a little. Your soul leaves and travels and does things. This applies only to more highly evolved spirits, however. The mass of spirits who at death must remain in a state of confusion for some time, that uncertainty of which we have already spoken to you about, either go into worlds even less evolved than Earth, where former affections call to them, or where they seek out pleasures that are perhaps even baser than those that they indulge here. They go to take in doctrines even viler, more ignoble, and more noxious than they profess among you. What what engenders sympathy on earth is nothing other than the fact that upon wakening, they feel likened to the hearts of those with whom they have just spent 8 or 9 hours of happiness or pleasure. Moreover, the insuperable antipathies they feel at the bottom of the heart for certain individuals may be explained by the fact that they have a consciousness that is different from their own. They recognize these individuals without having ever seen them before. It is furthermore what explains people's indifference when they do not seek to make new friends. They know that those who love and cherish them are elsewhere. In a word, sleep has more influence than you think your life does. Ooh. During sleep, incarnate spirits are always in touch with the spirit world, and that is what leads high order spirits, without too much aversion, to consent to incarnate among you. During their contact with earthly vices, God grants them the freedom to re-strengthen themselves during sleep at the source of the good in order not to fail in their commitment to instruct others. Sleep is the door that God opens to them for contacting their friends in heaven. It is their breakwork while they await the great deliverance, the final liberation that must restore them to their true environment. A dream is the memory of what your spirit has seen during sleep. However, notice that you do not always dream because you do not always remember what you have seen or everything you have seen. This happens because your soul is still under development, so that frequently you remain nothing more than the confused memory that accompanies your departure and your return, which is mixed in with the memory of what you have done or what concerns you have while you are awake. Otherwise, how do you explain those absurd dreams that both the wisest and the simplest of individuals endure? Bad spirits also use dreams to torment the weak and cowardly souls. Furthermore, you will see another type of dreaming develop, a type as ancient as the kind you already know, but of which you are ignorant. It is the dream of Joan of Arc, the dream of Jacob, the dream of the Jewish prophets and certain Indian seers. This sort of dream is the remembrance of the soul entirely disengaged from the body, the memory of the other life of which I have just spoken to you about. Try hard to distinguish between these two types of dreams among those that you remember. Unless you do, you will fall into contradictions and errors that could be disastrous for your faith. Dreams are a product of the emancipation of the soul, which becomes more independent through the suspension of active life and relationships. This results in a sort of fuzzy clairvoyance, which extends to the most distant places or to those that have never been seen, and sometimes even to other worlds. It also results in the remembrance of events that have taken place in our present existence or in previous ones. The singularity of the images referring to what is occurring or has occurred on unknown worlds mixed together with the images of the present world from those bizarre and confused medleys that seem to have their meaning nor connection. The incoherence of dreams is further explained by the gaps resulting from the incomplete memory of what has appeared to us during the dream, much like a narrative from which sentences or parts of sentences have been accidentally omitted. If the remaining fragments were joined together, they would lose all rational meaning. 403. Why don't we always remember our dreams? During what you call sleep, you only experience the repose of the body because the spirit is always in motion. During sleep, it recovers a little of its freedom and communicates with those who are dear to it, either in this world or in others. But since the body is composed of heavy and dense matter, it is difficult to retain the impressions received by the spirit because the spirit did not receive them through the body's organs in the first place. Remember when we talked about in previous chapters about the difference between the organs and the spirit, right? So this kind of helps you to understand why many of us don't remember our dreams and why many of us think that we don't dream at all. 404. What should we think about the various meanings attributed to dreams? Dreams are not true in the sense that fortune tellers, for example, understand them. For it is absurd to believe that dreaming about one matter necessarily foretells another. They are true in the sense that they present real images to the spirit, but these images often have no relation to what occurs in the corporal life. Furthermore, as we have stated, many times they are a memory of a past. Lastly, they may also sometimes be a presentiment of the future, if God allows it, or a vision of what is occurring at the moment in another place to which the soul has gone. Don't you have numerous examples of persons who appear in dreams to warn relatives and friends about what is happening to them? What are these apparitions if not the soul or spirit of these persons communicating with you? When you confirm that what you have seen has really occurred, isn't it obvious that the imagination has had nothing to do with it, especially if the event was absolutely not in your thoughts while you were awake? 405. Frequently, things are seen in dreams that appear to be presentiments about matter that end up not occurring. Where do these come from? They may occur from the spirit, if not for the body, which means that the spirit sees what it desires because it goes looking for it. You must not forget that during sleep, the soul is always more or less under the influence of matter, and consequently is never completely free from terrestrial ideas. Therefore, the concerns of wakefulness may give you what you see, the appearance of what you desire or what you fear. This is really what can be called a trick of the imagination. When you are strongly preoccupied with an idea, you connect it to everything that you see. This is why whenever we have conversations about omens and signs and symbols that are coming from spirit, a lot of times I have to kind of bring people back down to earth because they tend to see omens in everything, or they see a sign in everything, or the number, 333 or 111 in everything. And you have to kind of stop people and say, but wait a second, if you're researching this particular subject, or if you're thinking about this particular thing, you're going to see it everywhere. And that may not be a sign, just a trick of your imagination. 406. When we see living persons perfectly known to us doing things in a dream which they would absolutely never think of doing in real life, isn't that pure imagination? Which they would absolutely never think about? How do you know that? Their spirit may come to visit yours, and yours may visit theirs without yours always knowing what they are thinking about. Besides, according to your desires, you frequently apply to individuals familiar to you what occurred or is occurring in other existences. So don't judge a book, right? 407. Is complete sleep necessary for the emancipation of the spirit? No. The spirit recovers its freedom whenever the senses become sluggish. It takes advantage of every moment of respite that the body offers to emancipate itself. As soon as there is prostration of the vital forces, the spirit disengages itself. The weaker the body is, the freer the spirit will be. Thus, a nap or a simple dulling of the senses often presents the same images as dreaming does. Mhm. I've got probably the most prophetic and the most profound supernatural instances occur whenever I take a nap. I don't know about you guys, but it definitely happens to me. 408. Sometimes it seems to us that we hear within us distinctly pronounced words that we have no relation to what we are preoccupied with. Where do they come from? Yes, and even entire sentences, especially when the senses begin to grow dull. It's sometimes the faint echo of a spirit who wishes to communicate with you. 409. Often, while we have our eyes shut during a state that is not yet sleep, we see distinct images and figures in the minutest detail. Is this an effect of vision, or is it just our imagination? The body being numb, the spirit tries to break its chains. It travels and it sees. If sleep were complete, this vision would be a dream. 410. During sleep or a nap, we sometimes have ideas that seem very worthwhile, but which, in spite of the efforts we make to recall them, are erased from our waking memory. Where do these ideas come from? They are the result of the freedom of the spirit, who emancipates itself and enjoys broader faculties for the moment. Also, they are frequently counsels given by other spirits. Of what use are such ideas or counsels if the memory of them is lost and they cannot be employed? Such ideas sometimes belong more to the spirit world than to the corporal one. But most frequently, if the body forgets them, the spirit remembers them nonetheless. And the idea returns at the appropriate time as an inspiration of the moment. 411. During the time that spirit is disengaged from matter and acts as a spirit, does it know the time of its death? It often has presentiment. Sometimes it has very clear awareness of it, which gives it an intuition about it while awake. That is why some individuals sometimes foresee their own death with great precision. 412. Can the activity of the spirit during the repose or sleep of the body fatigue the body? Yes. Because the spirit is connected to the body like a balloon tied to a post, in the same manner that the jerking movements of the balloon shake the post, the activity of the spirit reacts upon the body and may produce fatigue. Ooh, child. Ooh. Okay, we're now on the subject of visits between the spirits of living persons, right? 413. The principle of the soul's emancipation during sleep seems to indicate that we live two lives simultaneously, that of the body involving our life of outward relationships, and that of the soul involving our life of concealed relationships. Is this precise? In the state of emancipation, the life of the body yields to that of the soul, but properly speaking, there are no two lives. Instead, they are two phases of the same life. People do not live dual lives. 414. Can two people who know each other visit each other during sleep? Yes. And many others who do not think they know each other while they're awake meet and converse. Without even suspecting it, you may even have friends in another country. The phenomenon during sleep in which you visit your friends, relatives, acquaintances, and individuals who may be useful to you is so frequent that you experience it almost every night. 415. Of what use are these nocturnal visits if we do not remember them? Well, ordinarily, upon wakening, an intuition remains that is almost always the origin of certain ideas which arise spontaneously without your being able to explain them, and which are but the ones grasped during such colloquies, right? So those encounters are the reason or the foundation for the inspirations that you get throughout life, and maybe even the inspiration for your artwork or for your whatever, right? 416. Can people cause spirit to visit at will? For example, can they say upon going to bed, "Tonight I wish to meet in spirit with such and such person to speak with him or her and tell him or her about such and such thing"? Here's what actually happens. The person sleeps and the spirit awakens, but the spirit is often very far from following what the person resolved while awake. Because the life of the person's interests the spirit very little when it is set free from matter. This applies to individuals who are already quite evolved, though the others spend their spirit existence in an entirely different manner. These either give in to their passions or remain inactive altogether. Thus, it may happen that, depending on the reason proposed, the spirit may go visit individuals it wanted to, but the mere desire while awake to do so is not reason for its actual doing it, right? Does that make sense? So your spirit is not concerned with what you want. So you may try and tell your spirit that you want it to do something specific when you go to sleep, but your spirit, once it leaves your body, it doesn't give a fuck about what you want. It has its own it has its own reasons for doing what it needs to do, right? 417. Can a certain number of incarnate spirits meet and form a gathering? Of course. The bonds of friendship, old or new, frequently reunite a number of spirits who feel happy at being together. The word old refers to the ties of friendship contracts in previous existences. Upon awakening, we bring back an intuition of the ideas we have acquired during such concealed colloquies, even though their source appears unknown to us. 418. If a person believed a friend to be dead, but who in reality was not, could that person meet the friend in spirit and thus know that he or she was still alive? In such a case, could this person have an intuition about it upon wakening? As a spirit, the individual can certainly see the friend and know how he or she is. If the belief in her death was not meant as a trial, the person will have a presentiment that he or she is alive and that he or she is in fact dead, or that he or she is in fact dead. We are now on the subject of the concealed transmission of thought. 419. Why is it that the same idea, a discovery, for example, arises at the same time in many places? Before I even read the answer, keep in mind that in 2010, I want to say 2010, quantum physicists had done experiments about this idea of universal knowledge, or people plucking knowledge from the collective consciousness, right? So, and they did this with the use of crossword puzzles. So they gave, I believe the way that they did it was that they gave a group of people crosswords puzzles that were brand new, that just came out that day, and then they gave the same group of people a crossword puzzle that had already been solved, that was like a couple of months old. Okay. They noticed that their frequency of correct answers were much higher in the crossword puzzles that were already solved than the one that was brand new, which helped them to conclude that answers that have already been thought of, or discoveries that have already been made, have now entered into some sort of collective consciousness that now anyone can access at any given time. I just wanted to say that. I think it's an absolutely fascinating experiment. And now I want to see what the answer is. So let me repeat the question. Why is it that the same idea, a discovery, for example, arises at the same time in many places? We have already stated that spirits communicate with one another during sleep. Well, then, when the body awakens, the spirit remembers what it has learned, and the person thinks that he or she has invented it. Thus, many may seem to have discovered the same thing at the same time, and when you say that an idea is floating around, you employ a figure of speech that is more precise than you think. Without even suspecting it, each one contributes to its dissemination. In this way, our spirit itself often unknowingly reveals the object of our waking preoccupations to other spirits. 420. 420. Can spirits communicate with one another when the body is completely awake? A spirit is not enclosed in its body as if it were in a box. It radiates all around in every direction. Hence, it can communicate with other spirits even in the waking state, although it does so with more difficulty. 421. Why do two perfectly awake persons sometimes have the same thought at the exact same time? They are two attuned spirits who communicate with each other and read each other's thoughts even when they are not asleep. When spirits meet, there is a communication of thought that enables two persons to see and understand each other without the need for verbal language. They may be said to speak the language of the spirits. We are now on the subject of lethargy, catalepsy, and apparent death. 422. Lethargic and cataleptic individuals generally see and hear what is occurring around them, but they cannot express it. Do they see and hear through the eyes and ears of the body? No, through the spirit. The spirit is conscious, but is unable to communicate. So, why is it unable to communicate? The state of the body prevents it. This peculiar state of the organs proves to you that there is something more to a human being than just a body, because although the body is not functioning, the spirit continues to act. 423. In the state of lethargy, can the spirit separate itself entirely from the body in such a way as to give the body all the appearances of death and then return to it? The body is not dead in a lethargic state, because there are functions that continue to operate. Vitality remains in a latent state like a cocoon. but it is not extinguished. The spirit is always connected to the body while the body is alive, but once the ties are broken by real death and by the decomposition of the organs, the separation is complete and the spirit no longer returns. When an apparently dead person comes back to life, it is because death had not actually consumed them. 424. Through care given in time, can one strengthen the ties that are about to break and bring back to life a person who, without such attention, would definitely die? Yes, of course. You have evidence of this every day. In such cases, magnetism is often a powerful means because it gives the body the vital fluid needed to keep its organs functioning. Did you hear what I just said? Magnetism. Magnetism is often a powerful means because it gives the body the vital fluid needed to keep its organs functioning. Lethargy and catalepsy have the same principle, which is the temporary loss of sensitivity and motion due to an as yet unexplained physiological cause. They differ from each other in that in lethargy, the suspension of the vital forces is generalized and gives the body all the appearances of death, while in catalepsy, it is localized and can affect a larger or smaller portion of the body so as to leave the intelligence free to express itself, a fact that would not permit it to be confused with death. Lethargy is always natural. Catalepsy is something spontaneous, but it may also be artificially induced and undone by magnetic action. Oh my God. Mm. Okay. We are now on the subject of somnambulism. You get what I'm saying. I'll try and say it as many times as it pops up here. Let's do it. Does natural somnambulism have any connection to dreams? How can it be explained? It is a state of the soul in which its independence is more complete than in dreams. Thus, its faculties are more unrestrained. The soul has preoccupations that it does not attain in the dream state, which is actually a state of imperfect somnambulism. Somnambulism. In somnambulism, the spirit is in total possession of itself. For the physical organs are in a sort of cataleptic state and no longer receive external impressions. This state manifests especially during sleep, the time during which the spirit can temporarily leave the body while the body enjoys the repose that is indispensable to matter. When somnambulistic related activity occurs, it is because the spirit is preoccupied with one thing or another that requires the physical body, which it then uses in the same way it would if it were to employ a table or other material objects in the phenomenon of physical manifestations, or a hand in written communication. In dreams that you are conscious of, the sensorial organs, including those related to memory, begin to awaken and imperfectly receive the impressions produced by objects or external causes and communicate them to the spirit. The spirit, also in a state of repose, only perceives confused and often fragmentary sensations, which, without any apparent reason, are mixed in with vague memories of either the present life or the previous ones. It is therefore easy to understand why somnambulists do not remember anything and why most of the time the dreams they do remember have no meaning. I say most of the time because sometimes dreams are the consequence of a precise memory of events of a previous life and sometimes even a sort of intuition of the future. 426. Does so-called magnetic somnambulism have any connection to natural somnambulism? It is the same thing with the difference that it is artificially induced. 427. What is the nature of the agent called the magnetic fluid? Pay attention to this, you guys. Pay attention to this piece. The magnetic fluid. It is the vital fluid, animalized electricity, modifications of the universal fluid. You should write that down. That's serious. And that's going to be revisited over and over and over again. Especially if we're done with this book and you guys want to move to the mediums book, this idea of the vital fluid is going to be the difference between you being an amazing medium and just a so-so medium. If you can control your vital fluid and how it interacts with spirit, you can be a phenomenal medium. But we'll get into that later on. 428. What is the cause of somnambulistic clairvoyance? We have already told you. It is the soul's sight. 429. How can the somnambulist see through opaque objects? No object is completely opaque, except to your dense organs. We have already stated that matter is no obstacle to spirits, since they can pass right through it. Somnambulists frequently tell you that they see through their forehead, through their knees, etc., because you are entirely immersed in matter and do not understand that they can see without the help of the organs. Nonetheless, at your instance, they believe they actually need them. If you were to leave them alone, however, they would understand that they see through all the parts of the body, or rather, that they see apart from their body. 430. Since the clairvoyance of somnambulists is that of their soul or spirit, why don't they see everything? Why do they so often make mistakes? First, it is not given to imperfect spirits to see everything and know everything. You know very well that they still share your errors and prejudices. Second, while they are connected to matter, they do not enjoy all their spirit faculties. God has given clairvoyance to humankind for a useful and serious purpose, and not so that it may learn what it should know. That is why somnambulists do not know everything. 431. What is the source of somnambulists' innate ideas, and how can they speak with such precision without things of which they are ignorant in the waking state, and which are even above their intellectual capacity? It just so happens that somnambulists possess more knowledge than you might think, but it is dormant. Their corporal envelope is too imperfect for them to be able to remember such knowledge. But who they are, after all, like us, they are spirits who have incarnated to fulfill their mission, and the somnambulistic state which they enter awakens them from this lethargy. We have repeatedly told you that humans live many times. This change is what causes the material loss of what they had learned in previous life. When they enter what you call the crisis state, they remember what they already know, but not always completely. They know, but they cannot say where such knowledge comes from or why they have it. When the crisis passes, the memory is erased entirely, and they are once again in the dark. Experience has shown that somnambulists also receive communications from other spirits who transmit it to them what they must say and supply them with what they lack. This is especially seen in cases involving medical prescriptions. The spirit of the somnambulists discerns what the malady is, and another spirit indicates the remedy. This double action is sometimes patent, whereas other times it is revealed through their frequent expressions. They are telling me to say, or they are forbidding me to say such and such. In the later case, it is always dangerous to insist on obtaining information that has been denied. Otherwise, the door opens to frivolous spirits who unscrupulously talk about everything without being at all interested in the truth. 432. How do you explain the remote viewing ability that some somnambulists experience? Doesn't the soul travel about during sleep? The same thing occurs in somnambulism. Oh, this word is going to kill me, you guys. This word is ridiculous. If someone knows how to correctly pronunciate it, please write it down in the chat because I am butchering this word and I seem ridiculous right now. 433. Does the greater or lesser development of somnambulistic clairvoyance depend on the physical organization of the body or on the nature of the incarnate spirit? Great question. Great question. On both. There are physical dispositions that allow the spirit to disengage itself easily or not so easily from matter. So, just to kind of go off topic for a second, this question of whether or not people's intuitions, people's clairvoyance, people's spiritual and magical abilities, whether or not it's based on the spirit that embodies the, that enable that is housed in the body, or whether it's the body itself that allows these faculties to occur, is a great question and is the foundation of mysticism in that sense. In the sense that mystics, and I consider myself a mystic, go through rigorous ritualistic care for the body. We do things, the way that we eat, the things that we eat, the way that we exercise, the way that we move the body, the way that we bathe and shower the body, the way that we just care for it is part of this mystical idea that if you take care of the physical vessel, that in addition to the spirit that lives within it can now allow the spirit to then do what it needs to do, and your psychic and magical and spiritual faculties are that much more stronger because you have taken the work they needed to take care of the body, right? That's just me going off on a tangent, but that if you are ever interested in the interconnectedness of the spirit and the physical, I would definitely research mysticism of whatever culture, because you have Catholic mystics, you have Jewish mystics, you have Muslim, like there's mystics in every culture. Okay, 434. Are the faculties of the spirit of the somnambulists enjoyed? Are the faculties that, oh, there it is. Are the faculties that the spirit of the somnambulist enjoys the same as those of the spirit after death? To a certain extent, but the somnambulist spirit still finds itself attached to matter, and one must take this fact into account. 435. Can a somnambulist see other spirits? Most can see them very easily, but it depends on the nature and the degree of their lucidity. However, sometimes they do not at first understand and mistake them for corporal beings. This happens especially with those who have no knowledge of spiritism, because they do not yet comprehend the nature of spirits. Their human appearance fools them, and that is why they think they are seeing living persons. The same effect is produced at the moment of death among those who think they are still alive. Nothing around them appears to have changed, and spirits appear to them as having bodies similar to ours, and they mistake the appearance of their own bodies as being real. 436. Do somnambulists who see at a distance see from the place where their body is or from where their soul is? Why ask such a question, since it is the soul that sees and not the body? 437. Okay, well, since it is actually the soul that travels about, how can a somnambulist experience in their body the sensations of the heat or the cold of the place where their soul is, which is sometimes very far from where their body actually is? Great question. Their soul has not entirely left the body. It always remains connected to it by this tie that joins them, and this tie is the conductor of sensations. When two persons correspond between one city and another by means of electricity, the electricity is the tie between their thoughts. Thanks to it, they can communicate as though they were right next to each other. 438. Does the use that the somnambulists make of their faculties during life influence the state of their spirit after death? Very considerably, like the good or bad use of all faculties that God has given human beings. Okay, we are now on the subject of ecstasy. Thank God, because I can't say that word somnambulist anymore. I just can't. I can't do it. I can't. All right, ecstasy. Let's get to it. 439. What is the difference between ecstasy and really? Really? What is the difference between ecstasy and somnambulism? I knew I wasn't going to get away from this word. Ecstasy is is a more refined type of somnambulism. The soul of the ecstatic is even more independent. 440. Does the soul of the ecstatic really go to higher realms? Yes. It sees them and comprehends the happiness of those who dwell there, which is why they would like to remain there. However, there are realms inaccessible to spirits who are not sufficiently purified. 441. When ecstatics express their desire to leave the earth, do they speak sincerely? And doesn't that preservation instinct retain them? Well, that depends on the spirit's degree of purification. If it sees that its future situation will be better than the present life, it makes an effort to break the ties that bind it to the earth. 442. If we were to abandon ecstatics to themselves, could their soul completely abandon their body? Yes, they could die. That is why it is necessary to call them back by means of everything that might attach them to this world, above all, making them understand that should they break the chain that holds them here, it would actually be the best means of not remaining in that place where they see and that they could be so happy in. Okay, do you hear that? People who are ecstatics, right? People who frequently go to these higher realms will oftentimes, and this is why they say it's so easy to lose your mind in the spiritual world, and to lose your mind in the occult world. When you visit these places and you see how beautiful and wonderful it is, you want nothing more to go back over and over and over again, to the point where all you want to do is put yourself in an aesthetic state so that you could get there, right? And the book is saying that it is our job to pull them back and to explain to them that the more they do this, the closer that they get to death, right? The closer that they get to the idea of possibly even suicide, the less likely they are to reach that place that they love so much. Because, as we've talked about in previous chapters, suicide and this idea of lowering your vibration keeps you stagnant. It doesn't allow you to move forward, and you would have to come back again and do this all over again, right? 443. Ecstatics claim to see things that are obviously the product of an imagination overly excited by earthly beliefs and prejudices. Thus, isn't everything they see unreal? Wow, the questions here are so like condescending and pompous, but whatever. Let's move on. What they see is real to them. But since their spirit is always under the influence of earthly ideas, they may see it in their own way. Or rather, they may express it in a language according to their prejudices and ideas they were raised with, or the ones you were raised with, in order to make themselves better understood. It is especially in this sense they can error. 444. What degree of trust can be placed in ecstatics revelations? Ecstatics can be mistaken quite frequently, especially when they want to grasp what must remain a mystery for humankind. In such cases, they may transmit their own ideas, or they may become the pawns of deceiving spirits who take advantage of their enthusiasm in order to delude them. 445. What consequences may be drawn from the phenomenon of somnambulism and ecstasy? Could they be a sort of glimpse into the future life? Or better stated, they can they get a glimpse into the past and future life. Humans should study these phenomena because they will find in them the solution to more than one mystery that their reason has tried to grasp in vain. 446. Could the phenomenon of somnambulism and ecstasy be brought into harmony with materialism? Those who study them in good faith and without preconceived ideas could be neither materialist nor atheist. Ooh. Okay, we are now on the subject of second sight. 447. Does the phenomenon called second sight have any connection to dreaming and somnambulism? All of this is one and the same thing. What you call second sight is, again, the spirit in a state of greater freedom, even though the body is not asleep. Second sight is the sight of the soul. 448. Is second sight permanent? The faculty, yes. The ability to exercise it, no. On worlds less material than yours, spirits disengage themselves more easily, and while still maintaining articulate language, they communicate with one another through thought only. Second sight is also a permanent faculty for the majority of them. Their normal state may be compared to that of your lucid somnambulists, and that is also why they manifest themselves to you more easily than those who are incarnated in denser bodies. 449. Does second sight develop spontaneously or by the will of those who possess it? Most of the time, it is spontaneous, but the will can often play a large role too. Thus, you can take certain individuals called fortune tellers, for example, some of whom possess this faculty of second sight, and you will see that it is their own will that helps them enter such a state, what you call vision. So this answers that question that everyone always asks. Is everyone psychic? The answer is everyone has the capability of being psychic and being a medium, but no, not everyone is psychic. I saw a lot of videos of people getting really irate about that and saying that every time someone says, no, not everyone is psychic, that it's some sort of elitist wanting to feel special kind of response. That's not the case. I made a video about this not too long ago. I attributed it to singing, right? So everyone has a voice, everyone has the capability of making a sound. But the fact that your sound is it can you carry a tune? Do you have the right pitch? Do you have the right like all of those things factor in whether or not your sound is considered singing or whether it's just making noise. And then there are some people, you can even take the step further, who are completely tone deaf, who can't even hear within themselves that they're quacking. They're not even singing. So, yeah, they have the faculty, they have the ability to make a sound, but that does not make them a singer. So, yes, you have the faculty of clairvoyance, claircognizance, clair this, clair that. You have the faculties of being a psychic, but that does not make you a psychic. That does not make you a medium. It's a muscle that you have to practice. It is something that you have to work at. And if you don't work at it, you're not going to have it, right? 450. Is second sight capable of being developed through practice? Yes. Effort always leads to progress, and the veil that covers things becomes clear. Is this faculty linked to one's physical organization? Certainly. Physical organization plays its role. There are organizations that are incomplete with this faculty. See what I'm saying? There are some people that are just tone deaf. There are some people that just don't have that second sight. They just don't have the ability to do that, no matter how hard they try. 451. Why does second sight appear hereditary in certain families? It is due to similarity of organizations, transmitted like other physical qualities, and afterwards, development of that faculty through a kind of education, which is also transmitted from one to the next. 452. Is it true that certain circumstances can cause second sight to develop? Illness, the approach of danger, or a large crisis may develop it. In such instances, the body is sometimes in particular state is in a particular state that allows the spirit to see what you cannot see with the eyes of your own body. Times of crisis, calamity, and great emotion, in short, all the causes of mental overexcitement sometimes bring about the development of second sight. It seems that in the presence of danger, Providence has given us the means of calling on it. All persecuted sects and individuals offer numerous instances of this fact. So I've seen this a lot of times from people who have had like near death experiences, or people who have gotten into like car accidents, or people who were about to go to like a party that was going to have like a gunfight, and something inside them told them don't go to that party, right? So these are moments in which your second sight sort of manifests and just your spirit sort of speaks out. And for some people, those calamities will allow that second sight to remain, and you end up keeping it, and you can practice it and keep utilizing it. And for others, it's just like a one-time thing. 453. Are persons gifted with second sight always aware of it? Not always. For them, it is a completely natural thing, and many believe that if others paid closer attention to themselves, they would realize they possess the same faculty, right? So that tends to be one of my issues as a teacher, right? Whenever people ask me, "Oh, can you teach me how to be psychic? Can you teach me how to do this?" Like sometimes it always blows my mind that someone's asking me to do that, because I'm like, well, everyone has the capability of doing that, so just do it. You know what I mean? But then I have to remember, like, no, people need to work that muscle. People may have the faculty, and some people may be completely tone deaf. You know what I mean? So, like, it's one of those things where, no, it's not just natural. You know what I mean? 454. May we attribute to a sort of second sight that Oh, sorry. May we attribute to a sort of second sight the astuteness of certain persons who, without appearing to have anything extraordinary about them, judge things with more precision than others? It always involves the soul. The soul radiates more freely and judges better than when under the veil of matter. So, in certain cases, can this faculty provide foreknowledge of future events? Yes, it may also provide a presentiment. There are many degrees of this faculty, and the same individual may possess all or only some of them. All right, so now we're on the subject of the theoretical summary of somnambulism, ecstasy, and second sight. So this is going to be a question, one question that he's going to go like on a huge rant about, and the spirit is really going to just break it down for us, okay? So here we go. The phenomenon of natural somnambulism are produced spontaneously and independently of any known external cause. But among some persons gifted with a special physical organization, they may be artificially induced through the action of the magnetic agent. The state called magnetic somnambulism is no different than natural somnambulism, except that it is artificially induced, whereas the other is spontaneous. Natural somnambulism is a widely known occurrence, and no one questions its reality, despite the marvelous character of its phenomenon. So why would magnetic somnambulism be any more extraordinary or irrational simply because of the fact that it is produced artificially, like so many other things? It is said that charlatans have exploited it. One more reason for it to not be left in their hands. Once science finally takes full possession of magnetic somnambulism, charlatanism will have much less credit among the masses. Meanwhile, since both natural and artificial somnambulism are in fact, there are no arguing against it. They are being accepted in spite of the ill will of some. This is occurring even in the realm of science, where they are entering through a multitude of side doors instead of through the front. And when they are fully established there, it will be necessary to grant them the right of citizenship. For Spiritism, somnambulism is more than a physiological phenomenon. It is a light projected onto psychology. It is during somnambulism that the soul can be studied because that is when the soul appears uncovered. One of the phenomena that categorizes the soul is clairvoyance, which is independent of the ordinary organs of sight. Those who contest this fact do so on grounds that somnambulists do not see at all times and at the will of the experiment, as they do with their eyes. Should we be surprised that the means being different, the effects are not the same? Would it be rational to seek identical effects when the instruments differ? The soul has its properties just as the eyes have theirs, and it is necessary to judge them in their own right and not by analogy. The cause of clairvoyance in the magnetic somnambulistic and natural somnambulist is identical, an attribute of the soul, a faculty inherent in every part of the incorporeal being existing within us and having no limits beyond those assigned to the soul itself. Somnambulists can see every place where their soul can go, whatever the distance may be. In the case of remote viewing, somnambulists do not see things from the place where their body is, as if they are looking through a telescope. They see them as present, as though they were actually in that place where those things exist, because in reality, their soul is actually there. That is why their body seems nullified and deprived of sensations until the moment in which the soul retakes possession of it. This partial separation of soul and body is an abnormal state that may last for a few short or long time, but not indefinitely. This separation is what causes that fatigue that the body experiences for a certain time, especially when the soul is involved in some active pursuit. Soul sight or spirit sight is not circumscribed and has no determined seat, which explains why somnambulists cannot assign one particular organ to it. They see because they see without knowing why or how, as spirit sight does not have a specific site in the body. When they do refer to their body, sight seems to occur in the centers where the vital activity is greatest, especially in the brain and in the stomach area, in the organ that for them is the most intense point of connection from the spirit and the body. Did you hear that? The brain and the stomach is where the tie and the connection of spirit and body are. Okay, you will see this theme come up again and again and again, and this theme is also very clear in a lot of mystical religions. The power of somnambulistic lucidity is not unlimited, however. Even when completely free, spirits are limited in their faculties and knowledge according to the degree of purification they have reached, even more so than when attached to and under the influence of matter. This is the reason why somnambulistic clairvoyance is neither universal nor infallible. Its infallibility should be relied on even less the more it is diverted from the purpose proposed by nature in order to be transformed into an object of curiosity and experimentation. When the spirit of the somnambulist finds itself in the state of disengagement, it enters into communication more easily with other incarnate or discarnate spirits. This communication is established through the mutual contact of the fluids comprising their perispirits, and enabling the transmission of thought like an electric wire. Okay. Somnambulists, therefore, do not need thoughts to be articulated through words. Instead, they sense and divine them, rendering them eminently impressionable and accessible to the influence of the mental atmosphere around them. That is also why a large group of spectators, especially of onlookers who are more or less ill willed, essentially impairs the unfolding of their faculty, which closes them off, so to speak, and do not unfold with full liberty as they would in more intimate and sympathetic surroundings. The presence of ill willed or antipathic persons produces an effect on them similar to when a hand touches a sensitive plant. So, those of you who are readers and those of you who have to do sessions with people who are skeptic, tell me that it is not hard. Tell me it's not hard. You have to work a little bit harder to push through that sort of skeptical, like arms crossed, like, oh, prove to me that you could do this kind of attitude, because their intention is ill-willed. Their reason for sitting there may be genuine. They may have a real concern that they're looking for answers for, but their exterior is very much ill intent. And as a reader, that can really shut us down. That can really infringe on our mental atmosphere. And so we have to work that much harder. And that's why it's really important for us who are readers to set boundaries with people and talk to people and say, look, you're either in this or you're not. So uncross your arms, open up your legs, open up your mind, open up your heart, and be open to what I'm about to say, or leave. That's how I talk to my people. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm a no, I don't hold anything back. But some people want that money and they won't say anything, and then therefore they'll get an inaccurate reading, and then will cause that person to be even more skeptical, because now it's like, oh, this person's full of it. They're not a real psychic. There's no such thing as psychic, et cetera, right? So this is why it's important to learn these kinds of things, because it doesn't just help you understand spirits. It can also kind of help you do your business better, right? Okay, back to it. Sorry. Somnambulists see their own spirit and body at the same time. They are, so to speak, two beings that represent a double existence, spiritual and corporal, blended together by the ties that unite them. Somnambulists do not always comprehend this situation, and such duality frequently makes them speak of themselves as though they were speaking of a stranger. What happens is that in one moment, the corporal being speaks to the spirit being, and in the next moment, it is the spirit being that speaks to the corporal being. The spirit acquires an increase of knowledge and experience during each one of its corporal existences. It partially forgets them during its reincarnation in dense matter, but it remembers them as a spirit. That is how certain somnambulists display knowledge of superiority to their degree of education, and even superior to their apparent intellectual capacity. The possible intellectual and scientific underdevelopment of a somnambulist in their waking state, however, does not allow one to prejudge anything about the knowledge they may reveal in a lucid state. According to the circumstances and objectives they have in view, they may draw this knowledge from their own experience, from their clairvoyance of current events, or from the counsels they receive from other spirits. However, the accuracy with which they describe things depends on the degree of their spirit's evolution. So this talks a lot about how we should not judge people based on their educational level, based on their whatever, because at the end of the day, someone who is the most elite educated person may be spiritually null and dumb, and someone who might be homeless and uneducated and might seem like the bottom of the barrel might have the most deepest connection to spirit and may be able to teach you things that are coming from a place that's way deeper than just education. And so, don't judge a book, right? Through the phenomenon of somnambulism, whether natural or magnetically induced, Providence furnishes us undeniable evidence of the existence and independence of the soul, and enables us to witness the sublime spectacle of its emancipation. Moreover, through these phenomenon, it opens to us the book of our destiny. When somnambulists describe what is occurring at a distance, it is obvious that they are really seeing it, but not through the eyes of their body. They see themselves at that place after having been transported to it. There is something of themselves present there, and since that something is not their body, it can only be their soul or their spirit. While humans get lost in the subtleties of an abstract and unintelligible metaphysics in pursuit of the cause of our mental existence, God routinely places in front of them and within reach the simplest and most patent means for the study of experimental psychology. Ecstasy in the Ecstasy is the state in which the independence between the soul and the body is expressed in the most sensitive way and even becomes somewhat palp- palpable. In both dreams and symbolism, the soul wanders through terrestrial worlds, whereas in ecstasy, it enters an unknown world, that of ethereal spirits with whom it communicates without, however, overstepping certain bounds. If it did, the soul would completely break the ties connecting it to the body. A resplendent and entirely new brilliance surrounds this soul. Harmonies unknown on earth enrapture it. An undefinable well being permeates it. The spirit enjoys a foretaste of celestial beatitude, and it may be said that it has set one foot on the threshold of eternity. In the state of ecstasy, the nullification of the body is almost complete. It only maintains organic life per se, and it feels that the soul is connected to it by only a single thread, which, with any further effort, would break forever. In this state, all earthly thoughts disappear in order to give way to pure sentiment that is the very essence of our immaterial being. Entirely enraptured by the sublime contemplation, ecstatics regard life as a momentary pause. For them, good and evil and the crude joys of hardship of this world are no more than futile incidences of a journey of which they feel happy to see an end. The same thing happens when ecstatics, as with somnambulists, their lucidity may be more purified or less so, and how fully they comprehend things depends on the degree to which their spirit has evolved. At times, there is more exaltation than true lucidity among ecstatics, or rather, their exaltation impairs their lucidity. That is why their revelations are frequently a mixture of truths and errors, of sublime and absurd, even ridiculous things. Imperfect spirits often take advantage of this exaltation, always a source of frailty, in order to dominate the ecstatic who does not know how to master it. To do so, these spirits produce appearances that will keep the ecstatic attached to the ideas and prejudices of his or her waking state. This is an obstacle, but not all cases are similar. It is our responsibility to coolly judge and weigh their revelations in the balance of reason. The emancipation of the soul sometimes even manifests in the waking state and produces the phenomenon called second sight, which gives to those possessing it the faculty of seeing, hearing, and feeling beyond the limits of their normal senses. They perceive things at distance wherever their soul may extend its actions, and they see, so to speak, through their ordinary sight as a type of mirage. At the moment in which the phenomenon of second sight is produced, the physical state is considerably modified. The eyes become somewhat hazy, looking without seeing, and the whole physiognomy reflects a type of exaltation. It is obvious that the organs of sight are not involved in this phenomenon, because the vision has been seen to persist even with the eyes shut. This faculty seems as natural as that of normal sight for those who possess it. They consider it a normal attribute of their being, and it does not seem exceptional to them. Generally, forgetfulness follows this temporary lucidity, the remembrance of which becomes more and more vaguer, finally disappearing like a dream. This is actually really true for me. Whenever I give readings to people or whenever I'm in a state of lucidity and I'm channeling divine knowledge for people, when I'm done, it fades like really fast. It starts to disappear really quickly. And if I'm not tape recording it or writing it down immediately, I'm going to completely forget what just happened. And a lot of times people will come to me for repeat readings and they'll be like, "Hey, remember me? You gave me this reading on XXX and YYY and ZZZ." And I'm like, "No, sorry, I don't remember." Like, let's start again. But that's really what they're talking about. The power of second sight ranges from a confused sensation to a clear, distinct perception of things present or absent. In its rudimentary state, it gives to some individuals tact, astuteness, and a kind of sureness in their actions, which may manifest itself as an ability to evaluate on first contact another person's moral standing. When the second sight is more developed, it awakens presentiments, and when developed even further, it shows events that have already happened or that are in the process of happening. Natural or artificial somnambulism, ecstasy, and second sight are no more than varieties or modifications of effects arising from the same cause. Like dreams, such phenomenon belong to the natural order, and that is why they have existed throughout time. History shows us that they have been known about and even exploited since remotest antiquity, and in them may be found the explanation of an infinite number of events that preconceived ideas have regarded as supernatural. Woo-hoo-hoo! What time is it? 8:18. Okay, I think I'll stop now. So we only did one chapter for today. See, I told you these chapters were going to be a little chunky. So we'll pick up with part 2 next time. So part 2 is called The Intervention of Spirits in the Corporal World. Oh my God, what a fascinating subject. So this is going to be the reading of thoughts by spirits, the concealed influence of spirits on their thoughts and actions, possession and being possessed, convulsionaries, the affection of spirits for certain individuals, guardian angels, protectors, familiars, sympathetic spirits, presentiments and the influence of spirits on the events of life, the action of spirits on phenomenon in nature, spirits during battle, having pacts with spirits, the occult, and power and talismans and sorcerers and blessings and curses. Oh my God! So the next topic is going to be so juicy, you guys. So you better tune in. So let's stick with Sundays. I feel like Sundays are a good thing. However, I live in the Northeast and we're expecting a huge blizzard tomorrow. So if I have off tomorrow, I might just do it tomorrow. So just stay tuned on my Facebook, on my TikTok, on my Instagram, and on my YouTube. And I'll keep you guys posted. If I don't do it tomorrow, we will definitely do it next Saturday, same time, same place, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But of course, those of you who are on my TikTok, I usually like to come on a little bit earlier than 7 to play some nice vibing music, to give a couple of free readings to people and just hang out. So feel free to join me there. And now it's time to take questions. It's time to talk about some of the thoughts that we had during this reading of this chapter, and let's see what comes up. So we have a few people on TikTok. No questions up there. We have some stuff here. You were homeless for a while and chose to do something about it, made a personal commitment to meditate every day, and your life was transformed. Wow, Marius. Wow. Well, congratulations. I mean, like, that's amazing. That's awesome. The story of the wedding ring is a collective one. Kathy, tell me about the story of the wedding ring. I want to know what that is. I don't know what that is. The story of the wedding ring. You mean like the whole idea of just using wedding rings in weddings? I don't understand. You love my hat? Thank you. Like I said, we're expecting a snowstorm and it is winter and New York be getting cold. I'm a cold baby. So I got my little cozy bathrobe and my hat and I'm ready for it. Any questions? No, we're good. Okay, beautiful. So next Sunday, which is going to be, let's look at the date of that. Sunday, February 7th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Unless I have off tomorrow, then you guys will see me tomorrow and we'll do this super interesting chapter. Like, I'm so excited to get to this chapter. All right. So, thank you guys so much for joining me tonight and for showing your support. Please like, please share, please subscribe. It means a lot to me. All right. And have a beautiful night. Take it easy. Turn off TikTok first.